Just to give a brief intro, my name is Krish. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of ChargeBee. We started the company 4 years back, June 2011. Four of us friends started the company out of an apartment. We put a screen and said, this side is ChargeBee, and that side, one of them lived. So we lived there for 6 months. We worked out of that office, and then moved to an office above a hardware shop, which was also shared by a church. We grew to about 10 people, and so we bootstrapped. The intent was to build a company that we would bootstrap, build with customer revenue, and when we realized the opportunity is big, we went on to scale the company, and we found a couple of really good investors. Of course, we raised a little of angel capital to start with, and then we're funded by Axel Partners subsequently, and more recently by Tiger Global. And so the context is that the topic is pretty tricky. It's not that we don't want to meet customers. Of course, I do want to meet customers, and we do from time to time. But why do we say, how do we sell to customers we don't meet? I would rephrase it slightly, which is how do we sell to customers we don't get to meet, right? So the context is we are a software as a service company. And as any startup, we are very careful with who we work with, right? Which is, be it the infrastructure that we want, even from the early days, or the software that we use for our own consumption. We are heavily on the tech side, right? So we use like more than 25, 30 software as a service products for ourselves. So how do we do it? We don't get to, we always choose the best in the category. We all want to choose the best in the category that is available, which helps you to succeed. So we are always careful about what we choose to work with. But at the same time, do the best of the breed products, are they all available next door? Really not, right? So how do we all buy products? We tend to evaluate them. And that's exactly how ChargeBee also works. So I want to walk you through very briefly about ChargeBee, and also a few things that we have done right, lessons learned that I would like to share with you in terms of how to build a company that actually is able to sell remotely. It all starts with a promise, right? Where when somebody is trying to somebody wants to purchase a product, you are selling globally, and you work remotely. So which means that it has to, pretty much every touch point, every customer engagement touch point is designed to work in a particular way where we keep up that promise, right? So we cannot be like a $50 starting point product and say, let me come and meet you, right? And the reverse is also not true, right? If the customer says, hey, come over to my office, right? Let's meet in Delhi. Doesn't work, sorry. Not always, right? If there is an opportunity, yes, you do. But at the same time, it's mutual. So what is it that we do at ChargeBee? We are a subscription billing company, which is into billing and payments. So what the customers we serve are businesses which are into the new age products like cloud platforms or software as a service companies, subscription businesses in the e-commerce space, which are scaling globally. These are the nature of our customers. And what we provide them is with a billing and payments engine, which enables them to worry about their core product and not worry about the security risk of dealing with cards and all the use cases that come around billing. So it's a sensitive product offering, so to say, right? Which is, if it's card and payments, so you want to know who these guys are. Right? And so it's a harder problem, especially for as an early stage startup. It's pretty difficult to be able to sell it to your customers when you are nobody. And they are trusting you with your card information and payments information of their entire business, and it's their lifeline, and this could affect the cash flow. What if, the questions do come up where they ask like, what if you decide that you go away tomorrow? What if you go away tomorrow? Right? These questions don't go away. And so which means that you need to be sensitive to the fact that the customer who's asking you directly, you have a way to answer it. But what happens to the customers who are not asking that question? For every customer who's asking that question, there may be 100 others who are just visiting your website and not signing up for the free trial, or signing up for the free trial and then dropping out of the funnel. So how do you go about it? These are all constant challenges. So as a company, right now we serve close to 1,000 customers in 52 countries, where our customers are all businesses who are using it, and we process about $250 million of our customer transactions annually. So how did we get here? We started off as 4 people. Right now we are a 49-member team, and funded by Axel Partners and Tiger Global. So far we have raised about $6.2 million of venture funding to scale the business. So there is this the mantra that we all kind of assimilate and then we completely believe in, where it's customer support is the new sales. And it's not just applicable to ChargeBee, right? I would say it's pretty much applicable to every kind of business, where there is brief evaluation and subsequent purchase that is happening. And I think that's just the way most business relationships should be, because you don't want to get into a very long-term contract with most businesses, especially when you do not know what you're getting, right? And that's how it works. And in the case of subscription, what is really happening is, traditionally, if you, let's say, in the era of 80s and or even 90s and 2000, early 2000, we all used to buy software where, and especially if you're a big company, you would purchase a software for a very big budget. And once you implement it, right, you don't even know what you're getting completely. All you get is the sales pitch, the demo, and so on. But then after implementation, you realize, what did I sign up for, right? That reaction is very normal in enterprise purchases. But what is changing from the days of Salesforce from 1999 is that you get into month-on-month, you have the privilege as a customer to get into month-on-month contracts without too much of capital expenditure. It is becoming an operational expense rather than a capital expense, the purchase of software. So which means you have the ability to not just try the product, you also try the product after paying for it, right? You don't do deep integrations. You explore the product a little bit. And then if you are happy and the customer support is exceptional, you tend to stay with them and then continue to use it. But at any point of time, you know that the relationship, you hold the keys, you as a customer hold the key. And exactly why in the world of subscription, the case of customer support continues to remain the new sales, right? Not just the initial phase when you make a sale, right? Even if it is an annual subscription. Now, that being said, how does that put you as a software company, right? You as an entrepreneur building a company, how do you go about thinking about it? There are 2 things that we all should really keep in mind while designing an offering, which is the lifetime value of the customer and the customer acquisition cost. Pretty much every aspect of what we build the business around will revolve around this. We'll come back to this. So there are 2 key drivers to everything that we do. Pretty much that aligns with the LTV and the CAC, as we call it. So from the beginning, there are a few things that we have done right, and I wanted to share those. Just top 5 things that we have done right, which is, for every software as a service product that is extremely successful and that needs to be trusted, the trust is a 2-way street, which means you cannot design a website and a pricing page and say, call me for quote, right? Of course, it is applicable in certain cases, but then knowing your customer base is super important. In our particular case, we work with customers who are startups, SMBs, and the high growth companies which are getting into the pre-IPO stage. And these are all companies which are used to a different style of working, and the persona of the customer is such that they want to work with people who are like them. And who are these people who are like them? Right? The companies which are getting created by the people in the early 20s and the 30s who are used to seeing a transparent pricing, transparent terms of service. The key is not to have that star asterisk, right? You don't want to see that asterisk, pretty much in most places. And that's the key. So which means that you design a pricing as part of your offering, which not just starts with them, but can also grow with them, right? You don't want to say, I'll give you a $100 product which will scale forever. No, right? You'll just be shooting yourself in the foot by doing that. But if you look at ChargeBee's pricing, the way it works is we have an entry-level pricing of $79 or $49 price for early-stage companies, and then that goes on to grow with the customers based on the number of invoices that they create with us, which means we also bring other value-added services for our high-growth customers and charge them thousands of dollars each month. But then, where do you start? You can start even at $79 or a $49 price point. And having that level of transparency, knowing your customer is super important and has worked well. The second aspect is the product itself. It should be built for self-service, which means that when customer visits a website, a prospect visits a website, you tend to measure everything, right? How many people are visiting the website? How many people are clicking on that particular button where you say learn more versus the place where you say sign up for a free trial. So what if they are browsing down, just scrolling through the website? What percentage of people are visiting the website beyond the first 50% of your content? Which means that this person has the intent to want to read up a little bit more. Probably does not have the intent or may not have an immediate need, or maybe a very serious buyer. Now, what do? You put a call to action in between to figure out what does he want, right? Throw a case study in between as a call to action to figure out if there is a serious intent to want to learn from another peer who has done that, right? That will lead you to understand, okay, so this is a serious buyer, right? Now, what do you show them to walk them through? So the product does not mean just the product itself, but your website is your core product, the first step towards building that trust and earning that business, which means that every aspect of that business, the website is designed in a way that it works with that persona of the buyer and how you want to serve that customer. And once they sign up for the product, what else do they do? In our case, we are a payments and billing product, but then we are not a payment gateway ourselves. So when we onboard them into the free trial, it's offering a limited trial would be not so ideal. So what did we do? We built our own test dummy payment gateway, which gets bundled with a free trial. Right? When they sign up for the product, you get test data. You also get a test payment gateway where you can mock up everything that you do with a real transaction, integrate with the API, and pretty much go through the entire flow as if that the product will work as it is in your real system. And that experience is extremely important. So understanding that and even building taking out those dependencies and making sure that it's frictionless is important. So having a test payment gateway has worked really, really well for us. The other aspect is sales enablement, right? So for every question that gets asked, there are 100 questions. There are 100 other people who are not asking that same question, right? It could be about your terms of service, where are you incorporated, who is backing you, who are you guys, how long do you have runway for? It could be any question, and especially if you are running a service on which other customers are building their business on, right? We need to earn the trust, which means that every aspect having a transparent privacy policy, terms of service. If you look at ChargeBee website, there is also a chargebee.com/security.html page where we talk about every finer detail about how we even do peer review for code and how we how we even take the code to production, right? And where is it hosted? Pretty much most details are transparent. When customers ask a question, they are able to see that, or they have a question in mind, they are able to go and read about it. And the other aspect of the sales part is when they ask a question, how do you enable them to, how do you teach our sales team to personalize the conversation? In the very old days of software companies, somebody would have downloaded, all you know is somebody downloaded the product and then they could be using the trial in any way they want, right? Even earlier, we used to have a limited period license trial and all that, right? But in the software as a service world, there is no excuse for not knowing how your customer is going about the free trial. You know, every click they are making the product, right? It's all logged. It's about how we make sense out of the data and then ask them only the smart questions. We don't go about and ask a customer saying, so how's your free trial coming up? Right? How many times did they log in? You should be looking up yourself. Right? You probably should have a summary report which tells you before a customer conversation what they have done in the system, right, in terms of clicks. You're not looking at their data, but rather their behavior before you even ask those questions. Sometimes a user might come in and then invite a bunch of other people inside the team and then leave it for them to evaluate, which means you're having the wrong conversation, the right conversation with the wrong guy. right? So enabling the sales team to understand deeper about the customer's behavior is extremely important. And when we say self-service, it has to be truly self-service, so which means lot of importance when it comes to API documentation, documentation about the product, how to use it, the tutorials, the whole shebang, right? That needs to come together. It's not something that happens in a day or a month, right? It's a continuous iteration, right? When you release features week on week, your product needs to, the documentation needs to keep up with it. And which means there must be a team which is paying close attention to every single detail that goes into the documentation. It cannot be like a PDF document that's printed, dated 2 years back, and you have like a product which doesn't even look like that, right? Not acceptable anymore. And of course, having the right support tools, including help desk system views, Freshdesk, to answer our customer queries, manage the FAQs and all that, and then having any other documentation that is necessary to be able to train internal team and the customers is important. And the other aspect is the kind of support that we provide. In our case, we provide 99% of the customer support through emails. So which means customer write a question, and we provide detailed answers. Sometimes the customer would have written like a couple of questions and said, okay, I would prefer a call to talk to you, and when is it that we can have a call? And you tend to ask them what is your time zone and then what's the suitable time. But by the time you don't wait for that, right? So our team would have tried to answer those questions as much in detail possible, and then would have added a couple of questions. And then the typical response is like, I didn't expect such a detailed answer, and that answers most of my queries, so probably we don't need a call. Let me ask you the other questions as well, right? So that way you are building a team where a lean team of consultative support folks who are very comfortable writing emails, which means that's the skill that we look for more than anything, and it's all documented, and you're able to provide a much deeper experience to your customers, and that's very important. When I say trial activation and post activation, because these newer business models revolve around continuous engagement with the customer, the sales does not stop with the time they put the card on file and they start paying you. What happens is that it's a month-on-month renewal, which means you also need to pay attention to details like, have they really activated your product? Are they using it? Right? Knowing those information from the log as a summary is very important to know who is really at risk with you and who has already left, even though they are paying you probably for that last month, right? That may be the last time you may get paid from that customer. But you knowing that information beforehand is super helpful, right? And that's something that we pay attention to. So from a team composition standpoint, this is the pecking order in terms of even the way we look at our team, right? So we have a 49-member team, out of which more than 10 people are in customer support. Customer support includes customer support, pre-sales, customer success. When it comes to engineering, the entire engineering team that reports to a CTO, and UX and UX team, right, which includes front-end developer and designers, and then the sales and marketing team. And of course, the admin and finance team would be separate. So initially we looked at the promise, right? So what is super important is that it's not about the promise of saying, I can do business the way you prefer that. It is also making sure that we follow through on that promise and paying attention to the customer's needs with continuous dialogue using customer success as a team. So we have a customer support team, but then a couple of folks who are designated as customer success team who talk to the customers on a regular basis, have an agenda to say, let me just try and understand how ChargeBee touches their life on a daily basis, right? So we make it a point where we say every week just talk to one customer and understand how they are using ChargeBee in their everyday life. Right? It could even be saying, okay, I take this export, put it in Excel sheet, and then I do this work, and then this goes into that system. Then that's a learning for you to know that, okay, there's a gap in the product. Right? Take it back to the product marketing team, the product management team. So that's something that we may never learn unless we talk to the customer and actually see how they are using the product. So we make it a point to actually talk to pretty much most users of the system, not just the person who's paying for the product. So that's a summary of some of the key learnings that we have had, right? And hope you learned something new from that. Thanks so much.